Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to um, 1 hour with me on leadership. What are 8 timeless principles? What I'm going to share tonight is you can read it from the book called Leadership at All Levels by Professor Charan, who used to be a key professor on organizational development and leadership for many years. He's retired now. But I'll share with you the principles he shared in his book, and I will pepper it with my personal experiences. And please do type in the chat or raise your hands if you have a question along the way. I would encourage you to write down what is your career and life goals at the moment, reflect a little on it, and think a little bit about your individual leadership style. Leadership starts with managing yourself, because unless you can manage yourself, you can't manage others. It sounds simple, but it's always the simple things in life that are difficult to do. It needs a little bit of discipline, but you must have fun and not just discipline all the way. So thirdly, I would say, as you are listening to the presentation, reflect on your life goals, your career goals. What do you want to achieve? What is your personal style? How do you manage yourself? How do you approach others? How do you interact with others? The styles. And hopefully, this evening will give you some ideas on what you want to do on your career life and your leadership style. So, as you reflect along the way, please do write down what specific outcomes you feel you would like to achieve this evening with us. At the end of the session, we have a question and answer session. Tilman will ask me a few questions, and I welcome all of you to ask any question you might have about your life, about personal, about anything. At the end of this masterclass, from my perspective, I think you should begin to understand the subtle difference between influence and authority. There's a subtle but very big difference between influence and authority. Secondly, you know, we always say, well, that person is behaving strangely. Um, Strange is always means it's not common. Usually what people take as not common as strange. But strange sometimes has its reasons to be different. And hence we have to understand that people behaviors are caught and not taught. Even when you look at little children, they don't do what the parents tell them to do. They do what the parents do. It's called monkey see, monkey do. The third idea is in leadership, we need to always think about a shared destiny, a shared destiny. So when we all believe that we are in the same boat and we have a shared destiny, that together we live or together we die, then we will have a culture of shared responsibility and hence accountability. And hence all can move with the same force in the same direction. Without a culture of shared responsibility or shared destiny, it will be hard to move with the same force in the same direction. Then we must think of every way we can foster to develop a learning organization, because only a learning organization can develop continuous improvement. Why do I say that? Because unless we continue to improve or innovate, yesterday's level of excellence is today's fundamental requirement. Every day we need to get better and develop better things, better products, better people to develop better companies. And here comes the most powerful tool of leader is to understand the power of purpose and accountability. If you want to drive the human spirit towards a common destiny and direction, you have to help the people to realize their purpose. And at the same time, help them to understand that to achieve purpose, you cannot do without being fully accountable, meaning you can't have your cake and eat it. So, out of today's lesson, I'm hoping you will understand these 5 key points and principles about leadership. My name is Jeffrey Na. I am born in Singapore, but I have lived in 8 countries. I have 45 years experience. I've lived 6 years in Canada, 2 years in the US, 1 year in the UK. So I've been in the US and in Americas, in Europe. And in my entrepreneurship days, I've lived 10 years in Indonesia, 4 years in Vietnam, 1 year in the Philippines, and 1 year in Thailand. The rest of the time, Singapore, traveling the world, doing business, building people, building teams, growing businesses. I'm currently also, for the last 6 years, an advisor with the Vietnam National Startup Support Center, agency of the Ministry of Science and Technology. I'm currently running 2 companies, one Future Ready Academy, which is education tech company that helps the young and the not so young to prepare for a more digital and more volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So Future Ready Academy empowers young and not so young to be ready for the future, for the tsunami is going to hit the future, especially uh, starting at the beginning of this year. And everybody knows um, that there has been a seismic change in the world trade order. And also, I run my own venture capital firm that invests and build and scale early stage technology startups. India, Singapore, Australia, United States, Indonesia, Vietnam. I have not done any tech startups in Europe, but maybe with some connection and network with Tilman and yourselves, maybe we can be able to identify some opportunities to work together. My life's mission is to use my experience to prosper people and planet. I say people and planet, for without the planet, there can be no prosperity for people. And as Mr. Ray Dalio, who is the biggest hedge fund guy who used to run Bridgewater Associates, the largest hedge fund in the based in the United States. He says there are 5 major forces that are driving the world today. Number one is global debt. Global debt is today, especially for some countries, at a very unsustainable level. And if interest rates will remain up high, these countries can go bankrupt in no time. And what that in economic terms means uh, significantly reduced jobs and income for the people. It takes time to translate and filter down, but that's what will happen because trade promotes the most efficient cost producer of different products so that people all around the world can benefit from better quality product at a lower price so they can have a better life. Unfortunately, the trade has excuse me. Can you mute your? Thank you. So, trade wars does little to improve the life of the people in the world. In fact, it's a disaster. only waiting to happen. So I do what I can in my part to promote harmony around the world, to promote cooperation, so that people learn about people, people work with people, and we promote a more harmonious and growing society everywhere. So, 8 principles of leadership. Leadership is more about influence, less about position. I'm not saying position. The formal position does not give you a leadership. You may have a leadership position, but you may not have an influence leadership possibility. There are only 2 ways you can lead people. You either lead them by fear, they follow you because they fear you, or they follow you because they love you, or they love what you stand for. When they follow you because they love what you stand for, it's about influence leadership, not about position leadership. A command and control economy is passe, is the past, is not the future. The future is about influence, and influence is about how can you help people. And it's about shared responsibility. When people share responsibility, they will want to influence each other in a positive way. And that makes for a positive life. When you can go out and help somebody, I always share this story. And I heard this even when I was an undergraduate studying in Canada. A hippie, at that time, there were hippies were popular in Canada and the United States. There's a story about 2 guys who were waiting at a bus stop. One guy is a hippie, and the other guy was a more office guy. And he saw that the hippie had one shoe. So he climbed the bus, he sat next to him, and he said, "I'm curious, sir. Can you tell me why you only wearing one shoe?" And then he said, "Is it because you lost one shoe?" He said, "Excuse me, sir, I didn't lose a shoe. I just found one shoe." So you see, it's a different perspective. Different perspective. So from the guy who is watching him, he lost the shoe. But the reality is he found a shoe, not that he lost the shoe. So it's the same guy, the same picture, the same feet, the same one shoe, but the perspectives are different. So in order to have shared responsibility, we must have shared perspective and shared accountability. So I come to the next slide, which is continuous improvement. And in order to have continuous improvement, why do we need continuous improvement? We need continuous improvement because, as I said, yesterday's 5-star standard is today's 3-star, 2-star standard. So the excellence become the normal. So you need to become excellent, you need to continuously improve. So to continuously improve, you need not only to lead downwards. Most people think leading is leading the people below you who are reporting to you. Not true. Leading also means leading your boss. We'll talk a little bit later how do you lead your boss and how do you lead your colleagues. Across is your colleagues and down is the people reporting to you. And this is why you need to have influence over authority. Definitely, when you're leading up, you don't have authority over your boss, but you can influence your boss. Your colleagues are the same level with you. You cannot command your colleagues, but you can influence them to a certain decision or direction. At the same time, you can command the people reporting to you, or you can choose to influence them rather than commanding them. Each has its own merits and different approach is needed for a different situation. Then we're talking about how do you develop other leaders because you, one leader, and one man can only do so much. When you can develop other leaders, you can multiply the impact that you will create. And this is hence bring us to the fact of the value of distributive leadership. In other words, sharing the power increases your power. And you must share it properly because the power is of influence is through purpose and the resources you can have and people who are totally accountable for the result or the lack of it. So, why is leadership influence and not just position? Anybody can be a leader. As we mentioned, you can influence your boss. And in that way, if you have influenced your boss to a certain direction, you would have been a leader, but you are not a position leader because your boss has a higher position. Your colleagues, they are by your side, the same level, but you can influence them, but you cannot command them. So leadership, anybody can be a leader. Anybody who wants to improve themselves, improve their colleagues, improve the organization as a whole can be a leader. And developing leaders at all levels is crucial for any organization to succeed. Because as they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Together is more painful. Together needs patience. Together needs understanding. Together needs empathy. But with better understanding, better empathy, better shared responsibility, better accountability across all levels of the organization, then the organization is like different threads that are weaved very well into a nice fabric. If the fabric in the threads are not woven well, it cannot be a strong fabric. And hence we talk about informal versus formal leadership. Formal leadership is due to your position, whereas informal leadership is the power of the influence you can have. And influence is about helping the other person to achieve their goals so that you can achieve yours. It's called shared responsibility. And if this shared responsibility is not only what you feel, but everyone around you in the neighborhood or in the company feels, there's a shared purpose, shared destiny, shared responsibility, shared accountability, a lot of things, no matter how difficult, can be overcome. I talked a little bit about this, leading up, across, and down. You cannot command your boss because he's above you. So, from a position standpoint, your boss can command you, but you can only influence your boss. And your peers, people who are in the same department level, same hierarchy, you can influence them, although you cannot command them. But for the people reporting to you, you have a choice either to command or to influence. And I would say at different times and different situations, you need to vary your approach between command and influence. People ask me why. I said, well, if the building is on fire, you don't call a committee meeting to decide the evacuation procedures because we will all be charcoal by then. So I talked about this. So for leading across, you need collaboration and you need teamwork. And collaboration and teamwork are not just words, they are real. Your different department will say, this initiative only benefits your department. It doesn't involve us, so we're not cooperating. I mean, they may not say it to you, but that's how they think. So you need to find synergies. You need to think win-win. How can you help the other department, the other team, so that they want to help you as well? Leading down, as I said, you can either command the people reporting to you, or you can influence them, motivate them, and empower them to take ownership, accountability to achieve the company's goals, the neighborhood's goals, that will then in turn translate to achieving their individual personal goals. And that has to be starting from building trust and respect from others. How do we build trust and respect from others? We give first. We give without expecting anything, because only when you give without expecting anything in return can you build trust. Only when you help, when help is needed, without understanding how else can you benefit from it, can you gain trust and respect. And when you gain trust and respect, so the old adage in the Bible that says you need to give to receive is very true. So what strategies can we think about to develop leaders at different levels to support the organization's objectives at all levels? How do we do it? What are good ideas to do it? I think first of all, leadership needs to exemplify, meaning walk the talk, be the role model, communicate, mean talk the walk. Don't put a vision or mission statement that the people don't understand. It's pasted on a poster on the wall. But the vision and mission must be communicated well to the people so that the people at all levels, from the top to the bottom, understand what is the vision, what is the mission, and they understand the challenge that it is being thrown to them and how they fit into the entire organization challenge and how can they contribute to the entire organization's challenges. So once that is clear, the leader provides a role model, walks the talk, explain the vision and the mission, communicate well the vision and mission, and then ensuring and checking that the people understand their individual roles in the challenge of the entire organization, different challenges. How is their role? How can they contribute to the overall development and growth of the organization? Then that is the vision and mission has clarity across all levels. And all leaders have to ensure that the vision, mission, and values of the company is not a simple poster on the wall, but is understood correctly at every level of the organization. And then as leaders, once we ensure that people understand the vision, mission, and values of the company and live the vision, mission, and values, then it's time to help them, to give them some, empower them to be able to try and do their contribution. And as they do right or wrong, we coach them. If they go off track, we coach them back on track. And when they get back on track, we recognize their efforts and we say, thank you. Now you're back to being on track for the goals. So we have to recognize, and I say recognize, not reward, because recognize can mean just a simple pat on the back. It doesn't necessarily have to be any monetary incentive, although sometimes you need to vary monetary and non-monetary incentive. The key is recognizing their effort and their results. First, results, because without result, no company can perform. First, we need to recognize the result. But second, if they don't even achieve the target, we still recognize their effort, but in a lesser way. In a lesser way. But most importantly, we must align responsibility with accountability. Most people want to be responsible, but they don't want to be accountable. Now we need to help everybody in the organization to realize that there can be no responsibility without accountability. Why do we have to have distributed leadership? That means leaders at all levels. Because leadership by command control at the pyramid, old pyramid structure, will not be agile and innovative in the new environment. In the new environment, you have to have leadership everywhere at all the different levels so that you can move and innovate. And this is why the power needs to be distributed, because the environment today changes very fast and requires fast response. So we need to be, organizations need to be more agile and need to be more innovative. So the top-down command control no longer works in today's fast-changing environment. Otherwise, the organization will not, responses will not be creative, fast, nor agile. And if it's not creative, fast, or agile, soon the organization will die. And as Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. How many of you like Spider-Man? This is my son's favorite uh, hero, Spider-Man. And at a very young age, I think when he was in elementary school, when he first liked Spider-Man, I taught him that with great power comes great responsibility. So, hence, the final idea about purpose, resources, and accountability. First is to have a clear understanding of the organization's goals and priorities. And I don't only mean the CEO, the COO, the CMO to understand organization goals and priorities. We need to translate those high level, lofty goals and priorities into bite sizes that the middle level and the lower level can understand, because they cannot participate or contribute in what they cannot understand. And only when they understand why we are aligning the resources and accountability required to succeed, and where at every different level, not every project, not every budget, but as much as you can involve the people, have them participate in some of this decision making at different, albeit at different levels, I think you will begin to align the people and the resources to the accountability required for success. Okay, now back to Tilman to ask questions.
Thank you, Jeff. So I prepared a couple of questions to you, and then later you can ask questions in the audience and feel free to post them already.
Sure,
So some of these
sure.
are directly related to the leadership topic, some go a little bit beyond that. So Jeff, you say you need to lead yourself first, then you can lead others. Can you elaborate a bit on that? And where do you see, where can most people start to lead themselves better?
Yeah, I think um, the best book I can recommend to understand yourself before you understand others is Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Successful People. The first three habits is about managing yourself. Habit 4 to 6 is about managing others. Habit 7 says polish habit 1 to 6. Habit 1 says be proactive. Do before it's required of you. Habit number 2 says begin with the end in mind. Habit number 3 says first things first. It means prioritize the important and not just the urgent. That is self-management. Self-management. Only when you can do these three self-management well, then you begin to learn about how to manage others. How to manage others, as I alluded to earlier, is about thinking win-win and seeking first to understand the other party before you want them to understand you, right? Most people want people to understand themselves, but they don't want to understand other people. So they want to talk, they don't want to listen. So when you listen, you must listen intently, and that shows your respect for the other person. If you only want to talk, then you are telling the other person you are important, they are not important. So when you let them talk, you're actually telling them they are important. So you have to think win-win how can you find synergy and win-win, and how can you understand them more than they understand you, and how can, based on the understanding and you wanting to give first, then seek to find a formula that will synergize the power of two to make it eight. And principle number 7 is just keep improving number 1 to 3, which is to manage yourself, and keep improving 4 to 6, which is to manage others. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So the next question is, I know you are planning to publish a book which will be called Success and Happiness. You Can Have It All. I love the title, by the way. Can you just elaborate a bit why you chose that title and why this subject is so important for you?
Yes, I think success and happiness. Most people equate success to happiness and happiness to success. And most people have different definition of success, and most people have different definition of happiness. It's just like, and sometimes if you don't know the definition of success and happiness, you just follow the general definition. It's just like chasing your own tail around the tree. You will never find that pot of gold because there is no rainbow. So, what does it mean? What does success mean to you? Mother Teresa found success early on. It does not, she does not have material. In fact, she gave up a comfortable home in Albania to go into totally unfamiliar surrounding in Calcutta, India, to deal with people with leprosy. Mahatma Gandhi, he is an accomplished British lawyer from Oxford, Cambridge, wearing three-piece suit. But when he returned to see his country in shambles, he took out the three-piece suit and wore a white linen cloth, shaved his head, and walked the street and say, "We can achieve peace and harmony without guns." So, how amazing, how transformative. These people are living their life. Why? Because they have a purpose. So, if you don't know your purpose, I wonder how you can have the correct definition of success or happiness. So, I give you a different kind of example than Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi. Let's say the Beatles. Yeah, everybody knows the Beatles. Did the Beatles accomplish their purpose? Yes. Did they have success? Yes. But did they have some failures? Yes, some of the songs failed. And when they broke up and they went their individual ways, some of them had some success, 1 or 2 songs. Then after that, they fade away. And together they were producing music and after music again and again. But alone, they can still produce, but not so much. I think alone, the one who produced the most is McCartney, Paul McCartney, and the second is John Lennon. But George Harrison and Ringo Starr, they produce less and less, very little. But the power of the four coming together produce magic. So, did they achieve their purpose? Yes, I think. Because why? They achieved their ikigai. What is the ikigai? The ikigai is a Japanese concept for the reason for being. What is your reason for being? Why are you on this planet? Do you know the question? If you don't know, are you living your life purpose? What do you want to do? What do you want to impact? Is it only to have more money? Because more money you can spend very fast. You buy a Lamborghini, you blow it in Las Vegas, it's gone. What is your life purpose? What do you want to achieve? You want to have beautiful children? Yes. they disappear after they grow up, right, Tilman?
Yeah.
So, you have to define your own purpose. And after you define your own purpose, then you can understand what success truly means to you. And it may not be the same for everyone. But most people assume it's the same for everyone. And happiness. There are very poor people living in very poor villages and living on very little. They are quite happy. There are very rich dukes and counts in Germany, in England, living in castles, but they are not happy. So I would say success and happiness depends on your definition, depends on you. If you understand your purpose, then I would say you are closer to aligning success and happiness.
Thank you, Jeff. A brilliant answer and very inspiring. And now I would take the first question from the audience, which comes from Dan. How to teach accountability? And maybe you can also tell a bit about your experience in CEO roles and similar positions.
As I mentioned somewhere in the beginning, behaviors are caught, not taught. You cannot tell somebody how to behave. You can only motivate them one way or another. If you motivate, there are only two ways to motivate the human spirit. One is by love, and the other is by fear. If I tell you you don't do this by in 2 hours' time, you're fired, then that is motivation by fear. But if the guy don't care about your job, he'll tell you you can take your job and shove it. So how do you motivate the guy? You can't. So motivation by fear generally works well in the short term. The guy needs the job. He has bills to pay. His wife's got kids to feed and to go to school. So even though he hates your guts for telling him you have to do this by 2 o'clock, he will say, yes, sir, I will get it done no matter. But when it comes 2 o'clock, he'll say, sir, please give me another 2 hours. Then next day is please give me another 2 days. So what do you do? So you can only mold behavior. And to mold behavior, you need to enforce and you need to be very clear about what is the pain, what is the gain. The only way to motivate behavior in a certain direction is either pain or gain. I prefer gain, but gain takes time, takes patience, takes understanding. Sometimes you don't have time in the situation. So you need to unleash the pain. Like the guy says, you're fired if you don't do this in 2 hours. So pain or gain. Pain is short term, more effective, long term disaster. Gain is long term positive, short term disaster. Your choice whether you need a short term outcome or a long term outcome. And understand the consequences of how you are molding the behavior with pain or gain.
Thank you, Jeff. Before we come to the next question, one related one. So, how did you create a culture that really living by those 8 principles in your different leadership roles?
Yeah, if you allow me, I will share the screen again. In fact, I touch on those topics. This first, the leader must walk the talk. That means you must be the role model of what you want the people to behave. If you want them to be honest and you show some dishonest behavior, will they follow you? Monkey see, monkey do. Even your children, monkey see, monkey do. Even if you model the right behavior, then did you communicate what are the consequences of dishonest behavior? So did you communicate the consequences of the dishonest behavior? And do you enforce the consequences of dishonest behavior? And do you put the challenge in a way that is attractive to them? So if people will rise to the challenge, if they feel the challenge is worth their effort. If the people only see the pain in the challenge and they can't see the gain in the challenge, why would they take up the challenge? Why would they? They say, well, this is only pain, there's no gain. Why would they? So you must be able to communicate why the challenge could be short-term pain, but significant long-term gain. And you will always find people who only want short-term. They don't care about the long-term. Then the question is, have you got the right people? Especially if you are a small company. So if the people are only short-term focused, then are they really the right people? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? And then once you found the right team, you need to unleash their potential. How do you unleash their potential? You give them a challenge. So after you challenge them, you must empower them. The some leaders, they challenge the people, but they don't let them make any decision. So somebody used to ask me, oh, so we challenge them, we throw everything to them, total responsibility. I said, oh, sir, when your child is 1 year old, do you tell your child, get up and walk? If you fall, it's your problem. Or do you encourage your child, now, son, I think you can walk and I believe you can. And I'm going to help you. And if you fall, I'm going to hold you up. Right? So you give them security, you give them assurance that they can. So if you can instill the confidence and you can empower them, then when they twist their leg the wrong way, oh, it's okay, they cry, they fall down. So what do? You hold them, you cuddle them, you say, it's okay, but you're a tough boy. I'm sure you can get up. And let me give you a hand and help you up. So you are encouraging them, you are coaching them how not to twist his leg and fall down. But even if they fall down, it's okay. Hold their hand, help them get them up. And when they are able to get up and walk 10 steps, what you do? Clap, clap, and say, great boy. You see, I knew you can do it. That's my boy. So we do this with our kids. Why don't we do it in the office and think the people are a bit like our kids too? And we have the responsibility and the accountability to help them not be Superman, but to be their best they can be.
Mm. Thank you. Great answer, Jeffrey. I would say the next questions, the ones who put it into the chat, you can ask it yourself as well. The first one comes
Okay.
from Julia. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really insightful, grateful. The thing is, not my personal struggle, but from experience of other colleagues, toxic people. You cannot get rid of them because they have permanent contracts. And usually they're stubborn. They like really to demotivate and destroy it with each word. They're really like these bad neighbors saying you cannot do it. How can you deal with them? Because I find them really harsh and they can just almost destroy ruin any team if they exist there.
I totally agree, and I have had many such experiences.
Mhm.
Let me just come back to an analogy. You take a clear glass, a beaker of water. You drop one tiny drop of red ink. Exactly what you described. So what do you need to do? You know about oil spills, right, in the ocean? when the tanker spills some oil, it's not some oil, it's a lot of oil. Because the oil floats on the water, and if the water brings the oil across and it covers, it blankets, it kills the seafood, the crustacean, the sea animal, all below. So with the bad people, irresponsible people, this kind of poison spreads very fast. So when the poison is spreading, you need to remove the poison, even though it may be painful, even though it may be difficult. If you have cancer on one leg, find a way. There won't be an easy way, there won't be an easy answer. But if you don't amputate your leg that has cancer, the cancer gets to your heart and your brain.
Thank you, Jeff. Moving to the next question. And I would say over to Zach, if you want to ask it yourself.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Jeffrey, for the wonderful presentation. It was very
Thank
insightful.
you.
I was wondering if those ideas about leadership that you shared with us have a particular way of being implemented when it comes to a technical or a data-driven kind of environment, like a tech startup, for example, or any kind of
Yes.
startup that's very, very much into data-driven and modern technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach, for your kind words. In fact, I mentor a lot of tech startup from India to Silicon Valley in all, because it's tech startup is difficult environment, difficult for many reasons. One reason is scarce resources. Another reason is competition. Another reason is the market is changing fast. So when you are in a pressure cooker, I call it pressure cooker, with challenges that are thrown at you every day, left, right, center, everywhere, from competition, from customers, from people. People give up, so challenges. So how do you align people? I would say the only way is to align the values. You start with the, I mean, it sounds very basic. If you have people, it's like cooking a dish, right? I mean, if you have the wrong ingredients in the pot, you're not gonna make a good dish. The good dish needs different combination of meat, of vegetable, of potatoes, of garnishes, of salt, pepper, spices to make a certain dish. So when you have the wrong combination, worse with the wrong spices, or cooking in the wrong temperature, high cooker, it will be even more challenging. But I don't want to give your hopes up that there is a magical answer. There isn't a magical answer to this. It's just if you start with having the best ingredient, it's a good start, but it's not enough. The best ingredient is people who are aligned in values, people who can understand the vision and mission of the company, assuming it's communicated well, people who are willing to go for the long haul rather than the short term. These are characteristics of the right ingredient of the people, attributes. But sometimes you are in a situation where you don't find the best ingredients. So, like making a dish, when you cannot find the best ingredients, do you still not cook a dish? You still need to eat. You still need to serve your customers if you are a restaurant. You cannot say, "Oh, today I I don't find the right ingredient in the market, so sorry, customers. No, you can't. I can't serve you today." But some Italian guy might, Mamma Mia, they say, I don't have no pay. I cannot cook for you today. Restaurant closed today. But if your business has to go on, you have to go on. And you make the best of what you have, and slowly and progressively, you try to change the water. You know what I mean? So when you have one red ink in the water, you need to try to get rid of this red ink. But if you cannot get rid of this red ink immediately, you dilute, you pour more water. So the red color is less red in the water. So you make do, you adjust, you adapt until you can continuously, slowly improve the water from red to pink to white.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
We have one more question before we can answer it. Jeffrey, can you just make the call to action for people to reflect, and if you like, to join our LinkedIn group?
Yes. Reconnect with the goal you wrote down at the beginning of the session, and write down what are your top 3 to 5 biggest lessons you learned this evening, and continue to reflect on them, and write down for each of the takeaways that you learn what actions you are committing to create continuous improvement and continuous learning. We have a linking group called Learning and Sharing for a Better Tomorrow. Because my personal philosophy is everybody can learn from everybody. If everybody share, everybody can learn from everybody, whether it's about leadership, entrepreneurship, or innovation. So if you join our linking group, from time to time, we will have such webinars. And from time to time, for more deep dive, we will conduct executive retreats in Europe, maybe like in Lisbon, Portugal, for example, or in Munich, maybe where Tilman is, or in Vietnam or Bali. And those are more deep dive executive retreats. But once you join our community, we'll be able to share with you whenever we have webinars or sharing community. At the same time, Tilman and I, whilst we cannot do one-on-one coaching with everyone, but we're happy to if you join the community, we're happy to pick one or two a month, and then we can try to help you if you share with us that you are raise your hand that you are interested in a one-on-one clinic, and Tilman or myself will be able to speak with you and try to help you address your challenges. I remind you that in the world there is no magical answers. There are only possible solutions. And the possible solution you must try. And I say we are like coaches in the soccer game. We cannot score the goal for you, but we can guide you on what to do, what not to do if you want to score the goal on the other side and not your side. Right, Tilman?
I fully agree, Jeffrey. And thank you. We have one more question with Daniele.
Yes.
If you are still here, over to you.
Yes, I hope you hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the question is quite simple. When you are asked to lead like a diverse team with several cultures, do you have any suggestion or systematic approach? I know this question can sound general, but do you have
I
any
understand.
strategy?
Yes.
Thank you.
So you cannot. Thank you for the question, Daniel. It's a very good question. It's a very good question. I have managed multiple cultures. I think the first step to managing is understanding. You cannot manage what you don't understand. So when you have a team of diverse cultures, you need to invest time to understand the differences in the culture. For me, there is no one right approach, but my own personal approach has been when I'm managing diverse cultures, I always start with food. So I ask them to take me to a restaurant or cook me their food from their culture, and I will try to ask them why they do this food in some way, or what is the history behind it. Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't know, but through the process we get understanding of each other a little better. And then I try to ask some of the ingredients and the food, and then I pick up a few words from their culture. And by understanding a little bit of their words from the culture, then I try to Google a bit about the culture more, but not immediately try to understand totally. It's not all about nothing, it's about little by little. So every little step that we take to try and understand the culture will help us to manage them better. And in fact, we can be the glue of the diverse team if we understand all the culture, because the team, may not understand each other, but if you are the glue to understand each one and to help each one understand each other, then you are the best person to manage all five different culture, because you understand. Um, Remember I talked about earlier about Stephen Covey's 7 habits. Habit number 4 is to think win-win. Habit number 5 is to seek first to understand, then to be understood. So if we can understand the other culture, we can find a win-win formula. And when we can find a win-win formula, we will begin to be able to synergize. When we can begin to synergize, that is when we will be able to better coordinate, better support. I say better support rather than manage, because the leadership is now an inverted leadership. The mantra for leadership now is to lead is to serve. And unless you are willing to serve your team, don't even try to lead, because they will follow those who serve their interests, not yours. Unless you rule by fear, and then that's short term, it's not long term. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. This was great. I want to thank everybody for joining our masterclass today. We will share the recording with you. I encourage you also to join the LinkedIn group. I want to give the last word to you, Jeffrey, and I want to end this with a question so that you can close the round as well, because one thing really inspired me. We were actually together on a retreat in Bali, and I remember Jeffrey was the oldest of age, but Jeffrey, you showed up for every morning routine, taekwondo, yoga. You were always the first one there, always ahead of time. Can you just share your secret? What keeps you so young and active?
Vitamin P. And I told that in Bali to everyone too. Then they asked me, what is vitamin P? Can you guess, Tilman? I think I told you, but you forgot, maybe.
It includes people, passion.
Actually, it's purpose.
Mm.
Purpose is very important. Remember, you asked me just now the question about success and happiness? And I say, you cannot find success and real success or happiness unless you know what's your purpose, right? And the purpose is what connects your success and happiness together. Because some people have success but not happiness. Then they wonder why. Some people are happy, but from others' perspective, they didn't have success because they're very poor. But they're poor and happy. So what's wrong with that? So they achieve their purpose, right? So, I mean, if you are a poor teacher, but you love helping children, and you find that you are able to impact young children, in fact, even underprivileged children. Yeah, so you achieve your purpose. And if you achieve your purpose, you achieve your happiness. The purpose of life is what is called the ikigai, the reason for being. So what you do, what do you love what you do? Or are you good at something? Is it something the world needs? Is it something the world will pay for? There is no one magic formula, but the one who finds the convergence of what you love to do, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what the world will pay for. That is your reason for being, your ikigai.
Great. And this is what keeps you energetic and young. Thank you very much again, Jeff. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
joining,
you.
and have a great
Thank
rest
you,
of
everyone.
Thank
I love the
you.
questions.
Have a great week. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. Auf Wiedersehen.